Hola, meu nome é Willemse. Estou muito orgulhoso para falar com vós. Sadly, that was all the Portuguese from my side so far. International leadership, very common but not so easy. Presented by Attitude Leader, a masterclass given by Willemse. Today we talk about international leadership and the change of competences needed in this fast and rapidly changing global environment. Leadership, or a kind of leadership, is probably very ancient and as old as the first living creatures on this planet. We developed skills in order to survive, but no one taught us how. We just did. Someone took responsibility of the group and started to decide protocols and different levels of hierarchy. Some believe in Darwinism and that it all started at the animal kingdom. Others feel that it started in religion, who introduced the first humans. One thing we do know for certain is that our ancestors has developed leadership skills over decades and decades, and this will probably be an ongoing process through the existence of our world and the different cultures we live with. In this masterclass we will look at the history, changes, research and development of leadership styles, and how this information can support us to increase our skills, to develop and gain more insight, to strengthen our international leadership behavior. Leadership has always had a great effect on different groups of people throughout the world, despite where we have been living. All these matters are very common and still play a huge part in our lives. We still work on the same obvious goals despite where you are, which country you might live, which area you came from, etc. Leaders or leadership styles, or certain leadership styles, made sure that the group you were part of could live and survive. It meant, for example, as shown by Maslow before, psychological needs, breathing, food, water, appropriate shelter. It might be in caves or early settlements. It's the basics of our needs. Safety needs, security, protection from the outside, first the animals, enemies, but also protection within the group, the safety of how we react together. Belongings or being loved, like family, or to have friendships, or who you're going to marry. Esteem, are your confidence, the achievements, respect for others, respect by others, the values and norms which are very difficult and different in any sort kind of group. Self-evaluation, the morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance of facts, enough food for the group, or basic educations. All these matters made sure we got the basic matters regarding our international leadership skills. It's all started over there. But the order of words or the definition which Maslow gave might not be comparable to all the countries around the world, because it's based on a proper settlement. Therefore, it can be the words of survival we just explained are based on other facts like religion or how to interpret hierarchy and what the role of a leader in a certain group might be. But we can be certain that everywhere in the world we are focusing on similar achievements. So we have got similar goals, but every group decides which step has to come first, which makes it so interesting for international leadership. But the change So when starting an assignment abroad, you know you're going to work with multicultural teams, or you have to lead teams on certain behavior. The dominant behavior from their side is very important to your approach. In order to look at the characteristics you can learn, we look at the Lewis model, which I'm very fond of. Lewis model decides that there are three main types of characteristics, which are linear, multi-active and reactive. When you realize which part of you can divide them onto 15 different perspectives. These characteristics I will go through by you and you might realize from which one is more beneficial to you. The linear type talks half the time while communicating, so wait till the other one is finished as well. It's very linear, as we said, does one thing at a time. When one thing is finished, he carries on with the next. Usually they're quite polite but direct, so they will tell you more or less, this is what we feel and this is where we're going. They dislike losing face. Partly conceals their feelings, so you hardly can't find what they actually think. They're very job oriented. They know where to go and know what they want to achieve in life on an individual basis. Limited body language. Secondly, we've got a multi-active person. Talk most of the time and among each other. It seems, if you're not from this culture, that no one is listening to one another. That's several things at once. So we're starting over here, go to the next part, and then in the meantime we will do this job as well. We don't concentrate on one particular time at once. They've got a very emotional approach and feedback, so they will show you what they really think from the heart and from the inside. A lot of the time they've got good excuses why things are not done or don't even talk about it. They're very people orientated. It's very important what the family thinks about and to look after the family. Unlimited body language, moves when they communicate or moves when they talk to other people. And they seek out, when they're going for a job, they seek out a top person. Reactive types. Listen most of the time, are very silent, keep themselves to themselves, react to people's actions. So they wait for a certain reaction and then they will act. But it will be in a timed manner. They conceal feeling, keep it inside and are very quiet. They've got a great aspect of losing face. They will not make sure anyone or themselves will lose face among a group. They're very group and government oriented. And they use the connections within themselves. So it's either from university or business related. They will not just walk into another building and ask for the right person to speak to. After in-depth and 40 years of research, we can say that you're not just one of these types, but what we did in the Lewis model is that we can show on a diagram, on a triangle, different countries throughout the triangle, and you can see where you get close to after making your own profile. This triangle includes 15 important items, which is important when leading a team and creating a global mindset. So while working in a multicultural environment and increase your leadership skills, you should look at these matters. As we know now, is that when we approach someone with our own beliefs, the other person doesn't know what we want or how and has to act to a certain deal and what is expected of the person. Sadly, we can't go through all these stages in this masterclass because we simply don't have the time for it. What we can do is reflect of how other people look at various objectives and what we can do in either to influence or protect them. I'll give you a few examples. When you're used to leading in a strong, structured individual group, and there's a top-down approach based upon achievements of all individuals, you might get a country inside of your head that you think, yeah, I feel a country will work like that. It can be hard to change your leadership styles into a structure where social hierarchy and relationships are much more important, because you're going to be focused on the individual achievements, and that's where you're going to put the bonus out. Whereas if you've got a group who's more in a social hierarchy, they're not really bothered about the bonus. They want to check out how their family or group is gained in a better social environment. Every task or question should be thought about in order to get the relevant feedback or the appropriate task done. So it's difficult. If you're used to leading a group with clear instructions from a leadership with a great deal of governmental influence, so a top-down approach but more based on a governmental influence, it will be challenging task to lead a team of employees who were used to debating and discussing all changes and possibilities with all departments and employees before starting with the objective you've told them to perform or succeed. So what will you choose? How will you go into it? And how will the reaction be from the other side? Will they accept what you're saying, or they want to communicate with you first? What about communication and who is important to address? Being used of communicating where the truth of a situation or outcome can be flexible, and where haggling to gain compromises in order to reach satisfaction agreements. Funnily enough, you will see that haggling in some states is called corruption. But what is corruption worldwide? Some cultures don't even use the word corruption because they see it as a part of life and protecting your family. So when we look back at the inner circle, we can see the difference already, how to relate to different words. It will be hard to minimal feedback and little discussion, whereby clarity after the meeting is little summarized. So when you're into a situation where you have to lead a team who's very insight oriented, use very little feedback, you're not sure where you are after presenting your goals and life, what you gain from HQ. It can therefore be very important that if you show some people a presentation from about 2.5 hours, which go in great depth into a culture which is only which can only hold their feedback of 45 to 30 minutes, and just want to know what do you decide to do and what's the outcome. They don't care about the middle bit. So it's going to be very hard to communicate with these people. What if communication is done through a lot of verbal strong approaches with a lot of different managers who all pretend to be the decision maker, but one person with all the power behind the scene has already decided which direction to take? If you move into a communication in these matters, or you have to join into a certain business meeting, it will be easier when you use of informal meetings where agenda items and leading and agreements has to be fixed and precise without hesitation. It can be very, very confusing of what's been said after the meeting, because you're so used of creating an agenda, following the agenda, and afterwards you know where to go. Whereas the meeting you just attend, people have been busy talking out loud and nothing has been decided in your opinion, because you cannot see the decision which has been decided from the other people. Working with over 100 different cultures in more than 45 countries, dealing with CEOs from the US, China, India, the Far East, UK and France, I can say is very, very important to increase your global mindset. Not so much because you have to, but because the world is changing towards a global environment. And it's nice, it's interesting, but it does take time. And it does take self-reflection as well. You have to be able to look at yourself and what you can do. So what I can say is that global leadership is more common than we might want it to be. So it should be a topic on agendas by universities and international companies throughout the world. The world is getting smaller in some ways, but stays very large when moving to a place where we're not familiar with. Learning about new leadership styles and implementing multicultural teams can be benefit for any company and organization in the world. No one is able to have that many skills developed to understand all the cultures we've got worldwide, and no one probably is able to relate to all of them due to your own influence. But that doesn't matter. The good thing is, when we relate to the 3 T's, we can say training, traveling and trying. We're able to increase our leadership skills in order to achieve numerous tasks and become successful. If we look at the title again from this masterclass, international leadership, very common, but not so easy. We can say that you are all strong and intelligent young professionals who can make our beloved world much better by realizing which leadership skills you've got and how to extend your experience in order to contribute positive energy to all of the people you come across in your family, social or professional life. May I wish you all happiness, health and good fortune in years to come. Thank you very much for your attention. All the best.